Good afternoon. Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone. I hope you all are having an excellent afternoon and an excellent week. We have a podcast. That's what we do. Well, we do guitar stuff. If you're new to the channel, welcome to Dylan Talks Tone. If you're one of those people who says that 3 minutes is too long to get into the actual subject, I'll wait and make it longer because, we're just having fun here. So if you're impatient, you can learn some patience. Otherwise, we're just having some fun. That's what we do on Tuesdays. We just chill and talk about guitar stuff. So a couple of things I want to bring out to your attention. Do me a favor and patreon.com/Dylan Talks Tone. You can check that out if you want. I actually put some stuff up there that will probably never make it on YouTube this week, and probably going to do some more of that over there. So if you've seen some of that, couple of little posts I made over there, as well as some other things that we've got coming up, I've decided to do some kind of little side action over there on Patreon, so you can check that out, as well as all the other benefits that you'll see that go along with that. It's a way to support the channel. It's how we get gear for reviews and etc. because, we have opinions around here, and sometimes these big guitar companies don't like them. So I don't get a lot of free stuff. So we use Patreon for reviews and such. So thank you for that. Another way you can support the channel, DylanTalksTone.com. Of course, we make pickups. Made a whole bunch of clear humbuckers today from going all over the globe, actually. Hong Kong, Dubai, all over the United States, South America, Mexico. So that's pretty cool. So those are going all over the place as well. And so check out Dylan Talks Tone, as well as some of the other links in the description below. Sweetwater, as well as Runway Audio Cables. Use those links. It helps out the channel. Some discount codes down there, etc. So you probably thought I was just going to wear the tinfoil hat in the thumbnail. And then I was just going to wear a regular tinfoil hat. Wear a regular hat for the podcast. But no. We're going to at least start out with a tinfoil hat today. Boy, you put some technology in some YouTube videos and some guitars, and people what's that Joker meme where they lose their minds? There are sure a lot of paranoid guitar players out there. I am really surprised by the amount of people who own cell phones, who own smoke detectors, but somehow can't manage a battery in a guitar, who own cars. But for some reason you put a 9-volt battery in a guitar, even though it's plugged directly into a pedal board with 9-volt batteries, no doubt. And somehow that just becomes I cannot handle this thing that is now happening to me, and you are forcing me to see with my eyeballs. What a weird... did your MGK buyer return that guitar or something? No, I never sold it. I've been keeping it. I enjoy that guitar. I like it a lot. You can talk trash all you want about it, but that's a really good guitar. It's phenomenally good. Let's see. I wonder when Harley Benton's going to make a knockoff. That's really funny. Yeah, I don't understand why people can't manage batteries. I don't get it. You have batteries in everything else. Unless you're the kind of person who lets your smoke detector beep. And if you're that kind of person, we're never going to be friends, because I'm not ever coming over to your house. You put a notification in your phone once a year, you change your smoke detector battery, and everybody's fine. And you are safe, and your house, is safe, and your kids are safe. And when you change your smoke detector battery, you change your hyper switch battery once a year. Somebody said this morning, they're like, I don't want to change my battery every 80 days. Well, 80 days at 2,100 hours would be, you would play your guitar for 24 hours, 7 days a week. that's a lot. If you play 24/7, that's pretty cool. And you are a better person than I am. All of the questions and concerns that people have for technology in guitars is interesting to me because there's very logical and reasonable answers and considerations for such technology. The people that don't want them just don't want it. So just admit to yourself that you are old-fashioned. It's okay. We're totally cool with that. Wait till you see the guitar that I have coming this week. It's awesome. It's real. Actually, I have 2 guitars coming this week. And let's just say it don't have a hyper switch in it. So if you think I'm against vintage technology, you are wrong. Obviously, I make pickups for a living. But there's a level of reasonableness that comes into living in 2023 that some folks just don't get a grasp on. I don't get it. It's a weird one to me. It's an interesting thing. Oh, acoustic guitars. Good point, Chris Hendricks. Your acoustic guitar has a battery in it. Everything has batteries in it. And maybe that's okay. So if you're like, well, I just don't want another thing with a battery in it, well, then that's dumb, in my opinion, because everything does. So you just have to have a schedule. It's a very reasonable thing to put a reminder in your phone. Today is July, whatever you pick the day, whatever you want. I'm going to change the batteries in all of my smoke detectors, my acoustic guitars, my hyper switch, my pedal tuner, my other tuners, like my CR2032 batteries and my clip-on tuners. I'm just going to be on a schedule and I'm just going to switch all that stuff out and everything is going to be fine. And I'm never going to run. What happens if I run out in the middle of a gig and it's my only guitar? You are a more conscientious human being than that, and you are not going to allow that to happen. Unless you let your smoke detector batteries go bad and beep for a month before you replace the battery. But, if you're that kind of guy, then you don't need this cool stuff anyway. You just need, therapy. Let's see. And I know that what's up with the foil hat? Well, I'll tell you what's up with it. Guitar players are a fearful bunch. They're afraid of everything. They're afraid of Bluetooth. I have seen this multiple times in comments since the Hyperswitch thing came out. What if someone hacks into my phone and messes with my guitar tone? Dude, I will give you a whole roll of tinfoil for free. I will send it to your house so that you can put it on every hat you own. I was telling Leslie that this morning, and she's like, who wants to hack into somebody's guitar? Not to mention they'd have to be like 10 feet away, and you would know who it is. Rusty Shackelford, I like this. Also, if you have legitimate guitar questions or questions about any of the videos we've made for the last week, get it in the comments. We will also drop what we're doing for super chats. I'll go back in a minute and make sure that I had not missed anything. If 10,000 hours makes you an expert, then in just 5 batteries, you can be an expert guitar player. Dude, you have just said something very, very slick, and I very, very much like this. Unhung hero, I'm afraid you're right. I don't know what I'm right about, and I don't even know if I'm right. I'm just telling you what I'm thinking. I heard something in another video yesterday. It was actually something to do with another hobby, and the guy in the video said, I may not always be right, but I will never lie to you. And that is something that I 100% feel very strongly about. I may not be 100% right about this, and there may be a very good reason that you should not have this kind of stuff in your guitar. A very good reason. Maybe it gives you ball cancer. I don't know. But if for some reason, the Bluetooth down there is hanging next to my nuts and now I'm going to get ball cancer, you're also very paranoid. But if for some reason something like that did happen and your guitar was going to give you ball cancer and I was completely wrong about this and you shouldn't have that thing in your guitar, then I 100%, I'm sorry. And I will admit to that and I will make a video about how your guitar gives you ball cancer if that's something that comes up. But I kind of think it won't. And I kind of think 99% of everything that people choose to not do with their guitars are because they don't like it, which is cool. But most of this stuff is stupid paranoia that has no basis. This running out of batteries thing, the rattling around in the guitar. I addressed how to fix the rattle in the guitar. I addressed all the things that people either didn't pay attention when they watched the video. Most of the time, that's what happens. I really want to do a video on how to watch a YouTube video because most people just don't pay attention. And then they ask the question and they're like, you never covered this. And I'm like, at 1 minute and 47 seconds, I said exactly that thing. So, just pay attention. That's the other thing I will say. Are people mad about a switch? They are. I mean, riding bicycles gives you ball cancer. Do you get the people who worry about this from Facebook? I haven't run into them here or in the comments of your vids. I know what you're trying to say there, and I will say it's about equal. I may not always tell you what. So here's the thing. Tim Gilbert, I may not always tell you what you want to hear, but I'll always tell you the truth. This is what I say. I'm always going to tell you the truth. It's up to whether you can handle it or not. And I know people don't like that, but so how the internal switches work, they said commutating and completely analog. So it is an analog switch. It is a click, 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 click switch. But the routing is not analog. Well, it's analog. It's all analog. The Bluetooth communication is the part that's digital, because obviously Bluetooth communication it's radio. So, but the actual switching is all analog. It's kind of cool. How often do you change strings? Did you actually need to, or are you just exercising a preference? I change strings. So my string changing habits might be a little different than yours. Because when we use guitars for videos, oftentimes they come apart. And so they get new strings when they come apart. All new guitars that come into the shop, for example, the Strat that came in and we did that Strat video yesterday, that every new project guitar gets string joy strings. I put 10 to 46 string joy strings on everything that we're using in videos. That could be because they send me strings and I put them on the guitars and I talk about them. It also could be because I like them, which are both things. Every once in a while, I will call their artist relations person and say, hey, can you send me a dozen set of strings? And because I don't go through them as much as I used to, but I make sure that all of those guitars have string joy strings on them. So the videos aren't sponsored by Stringjoy, but they do. Well, they've done it twice. It's not like I have a lifetime supply of strings or anything. They've done it twice. And I would imagine if I called them again, because I'm getting low, if I said, hey, can you send me another dozen sets, that they would. So I put, just being 100% transparent. So I put Stringjoy strings on every guitar that we use in videos that has, been a part and that we're doing setup stuff on and all that kind of stuff. Now, if the video is like about making nuts or something like that, then I've got a bunch of cheap Ernie Balls in there, just the cheap Ernie Ball slinkies in the toolbox over here that we'll use strictly for because like when you're teaching somebody how to use a nut file, you might nick the string or something. I don't want to ruin a set of strings for that. Or if we're, making a nut, like I have to make a nut, Chris, for your telly because we broke the nut, then I might use cheap strings for that so we don't chew it up, and then I'll put a good set on later. And then here's the funny part. For the guitars that don't ever come apart, then I put Stringjoy orbiters or D'Addario, the black one, the coated strings that come in the black one. I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, they have an X on them, whatever they're called. Anyway, those go on, or Stringjoy orbiters, depending what I have in stock. Those go on any guitar that doesn't get played or taken apart a lot. So all the ones up there have Stringjoy orbiters on them, except for the pink guitar. It has Stringjoy 10-46s on it. And I just kind of change them when I change them because those guitars don't get played as much. A, because they're not acoustics, and B, because we don't take them apart for videos and stuff as much. So, yeah. XT. Thank you. XT, that's the one. Yeah, Stringjoy for life. They're really good. Somebody asked me why I like them so much. And there's a few reasons why I really like Stringjoy stuff. One is, let's take it in the least to most important. So least important would be, and maybe I need to make a video about this, but least important would be, I like the packaging. I like the way they come. I like the way they're wrapped. They're not a pain to mess with. You just get them out of the way the packaging is. I like that. They don't have the stupid Sweet Tart ball ends on them. I hate colored ball ends because I think it, on a classy guitar, it makes it look like a Fruit Loop, and I don't like that. I know that's a nitpicky thing, but if I have a $3,000 guitar, I don't want Fruit Loop ball ends on it. I don't like that. That comes from when I was building guitars. I put all this thought and time and effort into making this guitar look perfect how I want it to look, and then I put like Sweet Tart ball ends on it. It's dumb. So I don't like those. The other thing is the customer service at Stringjoy is really good. First of all, we should also talk about the strings are very good. They're like balanced tension thing that they do with the numbers aren't exactly the same as other string sets, but the tension is balanced, is very good. They feel very, very nice, and they last a very long time. Even their uncoated strings are very reliable, and really, really good. And on top of that, I have gone there and I have toured the place, and I've seen, let's just say, the level of workmanship. Strings are interesting. They're one of those things that we take for granted because we view them as a disposable item. But they are an engineered part of our tone. And they are responsible for how our guitar feels. And they are responsible for how much we enjoy holding the neck of the guitar. It's a very key piece. I don't go all down the rabbit hole of, well, this one's brighter and this one has more mids and this one, whatever. I don't get into all of that. I care about the interaction of the human being with the equipment. And that's really, really important. And those strings allow you to do that. It is an engineered piece. So when we think about things that are disposable, like toilet paper and strings and paper towels, oftentimes we don't give them the importance of but come on, man, Bounty for life. I'm not using generic paper towels. I'm not using single ply toilet paper. I don't know why single ply toilet paper always comes up on this channel, but it does. Same thing with Stringjoy strings. It may be a disposable wear item, but it is an important disposable wear item that you should not cheap out on. And I know a lot of people cringe maybe at the cost of better strings. But again, this is your hobby that you should be enjoying. And if you are shortchanging your enjoyment of your hobby, then you need to rethink what you're doing. I feel very strongly about that as a principle. Gabriel Tenorio strings. I have had terrible experience with Gabriel Tenorio strings. If you like them, I'm glad you like them. And I know that a lot of people really enjoy that super handmade, super niche-y kind of, and I'm glad they do, because that's what I do, right? I make handmade stuff. I make my pickups are, we make them right here. And yes, they are not as clinically, surgically perfect as something that you buy in the store. I get it, because they are handmade. There is that handmade quality to them. However, with Gabriel Tenorio strings, and maybe if somebody's watching that can have some influence on this, maybe I'll try them again. I don't know. But every time I've tried them, we've put them in acoustic string shootouts, and I felt like they were floppy and dead, and I never liked them. And I felt like the tension of the winds was inconsistent from end to end of the same string. So I personally have not had good experience with it. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't try them, and maybe you will have a different experience. I obviously don't want to talk bad about any other product, because I'm one of these people that it could be a bad batch. It was over a couple of years, and I've tried them a couple of times, so I just think it's something I don't personally like. But you may see something in those strings that you like. Viva beats Bounty. I don't know about that, dude. I don't know about that. Chris Hendricks, I'm assuming that you have tried those strings as well. And you probably have an interesting perspective on them. Yeah, I'm sure. Is that a tinfoil ball cap? It is. It is, because we started out this conversation discussing the paranoia that many guitar players have. We could talk about it again. Do strings have a shelf life? I have about 15 packs of strings all sealed. So the short answer is yes, they do. It depends how sealed up they are and what kind of environment they're in. It's metal, so it's going to corrode, and it's not, coated or protected. So just be careful with that and try to use them. Have you tried Martin Monell strings? I have. Yeah, I have. String joys are hard on my soft, affordable guitar frets. A sacrifice I am willing to make. Sounds to me like your hands are hard on some guitar frets. That is an interesting thing. Now apparently everybody's talking about wiping. I mean, if you guys need to take a break and go take care of some business and come back, I'm not going to wait for you, but I recommend that you probably do that if you want to. Oh, let's see what else is going on. I'm going to make 18 P90s tomorrow. That's the couple weeks that we've been having. I'm using Elixir OptiWebs that I'm thinking about going the Diodario XT and XS. I would try the string joys, the coated string joys, the Orbiter. They will not feel like coated strings, but so here's the thing. Some people really like that slick, fake plastic string feel. I hate it. I do not, and everybody's like, well, try the OptiWeb, NanoWeb, blah, blah, blah. And it's not going to feel like that. No, all Elixir strings are just a Gore-Tex product. They bought, if you really want to dive deep on this, I'm going to use the word allegedly before about what I'm about to say because I know it to be true, but I cannot give you a paper trail to support it. However, I got it on good authority, and so therefore I am going with it from somebody who used to work there, and then I actually backed it up with somebody else, but they're just GHS boomers with Gore-Tex on the outside. Teflon. So they're not good strings anyway. And then they make them slick and feel crappy, in my opinion. And they have the OptiWeb and the NanoWeb, but they both feel crappy to me. I do not like the feeling of coated strings. I think they are too slick, and I don't like that feeling. That's why I like, to a more extent, the D'Addario XTs, but even more than that, the Stringjoy Orbiters. Could you spare a square? That's funny. Let's see. We got a super chat just popped in here. What's wrong with the Ernie Ball slinking? Absolutely nothing at all. I think they are the standard of just what a guitar string. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. And your name is Tedroni. I think that Ernie Ball slinkies are amazing. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I grew up on those things. When I was a kid, we had a music store. We had like drawers full of singles of Ernie Balls, and I had nothing but Ernie Balls all growing up. Do they last as long as every other string? No. Especially if you have strings are very personal because of body chemistry. And so if you are a person who eats up strings quickly, they won't last very long. I personally don't eat strings up very quickly, but they sound really, really good for a few days and then they kind of fall off. So it just depends what you want, and it depends how long they last for you. But do not let the internet tell you that you need to go spend, including myself, that you need to go spend $15 for a set of strings if you like what you like. I think you should try it because it's fun to try cool things, but it's not necessarily something that you need unless you feel like you need it. That's any of this stuff. You know what I mean? We don't need any of it. I remind myself of that daily. These pickups that we make that really sustain my entire living and feed my family. Nobody needs these. And so I'm very grateful that we have this hobby that we all like this stuff. So nobody needs it, but I would definitely try it. Spicy diets eat strings quicker. Actually, meat. Don't want to get into the whole meat thing, but I don't eat meat, and it doesn't. And it's not just me. There's a whole thing about that. You could go down a whole rabbit hole about that. Hang on. I got to go back and see what Wissy says. I'm really not fussy. I haven't found a string where I thought I have to buy these forever. Still trying new types all the time. That's kind of the way I am with everything. I don't have anything in it across all of my hobbies that's like, I'm only buying this one thing, and that is all I am buying, and that's the only kind that I'm getting forever. 100%. I totally agree with you. And Sean McCartney says that they're okay with his. Oh, the Guitar World article. Holy crap, you guys. You have to see this. Let me bring up the Guitar World article. I think you guys are going to like this. And I think you're not going to like it too. But I think it's cool. So, This is Kareem Dennis, Big KO, and Daryl DMC McDaniels. This is Run DMC. It's not Run DMC anymore, but it is Run DMC. That's Daryl McDaniels of Run DMC. They've got a new collaboration, blah, 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 but they're bringing rock back to hip hop just like back in the old days with Run DMC. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, ooh, look at that. That's a Benson amp, and that is a Gibson Firebird with Dylan Talks Tone prototype Firebird pickups. And this is what he's using in his Firebird that he got from the Gibson Custom Shop. And he prototyped them for me. And let's just say that you are going to hear a bunch more about that. And he gave me a shout out in the Guitar World article, Dylan Talks Tone Guitar World article, or Kareem Dennis Run DMC. But anyway, Dylan Talks Tone Firebird pickup. There you go. You will hear more about this in the next couple of weeks. I'm waiting on a custom pick guard to get here. And these will be available on the website. Maybe I should put them on the website right away so that in case anybody from that article finds me. So yeah, pretty neato, man. Yeah, Chris. So when you said that you wanted to do a mini humbucker and a telly, that's why after saying no to so many people with mini humbuckers for so many years, because I've always said, yeah, we don't really make those. When you wanted to do a Firebird pickup, I was like, okay, I'll do a Firebird pickup, because what I hadn't been telling people is that I've been working with Big KO on this deal for probably 5 months or so. And we've been putting together this pickup, and he loves them. He said they're way better than the Gibson Custom Shop ones that were in there. He's actually playing that guitar at Run DMC is having like their final like farewell show at Madison Square Garden. I think the end of this month, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago. Anyway, he played that guitar for that gig. So pretty cool. I was thinking about doing a pre-buy. I'm honestly just now catching up from the bonkers month that we had last month. So it's possible that that's a great idea. Yeah, man. I got your Thruxton for this. Thanks, my kit from Jim. Oh, okay, cool. So you got all your parts? So you're putting it together. Very cool. Do you have a diagram? I do not. That guitar was so long ago. I do not. Yeah, man. So the Telecaster is going to be the next project. As simple of a device as a pickup is, you would think it would be hard to make a bad one. That's an interesting question, or a thought. Interesting thought. It comes down to here's what I think about that. It's not so much, well, it is. There's a couple things. Materials that you use, so the magnets and the wire that you use, and the engineering that goes into the product. So for a lot of times, like in cheaper guitars especially, the reason cheaper guitars are not as good pickup-wise is because they've not thought about the combination. The guitar is a whole system. And so, as a whole system, you have to think about how it's all working together. I think we talked about this a little bit last week. With cheap guitars, it's basically like a point and shoot deal. It's like, when Fender goes to Squier and says, hey, we want, a guitar that costs $500, and they're like, okay, here it is. And they go to their parts bin and they pick out a whole bunch of stuff and they make it look the way they want it to look and it hits that price point. If you were to say, no, I want better pickups in it, then Squire would say, okay, well then it's going to be $600. So, within various parameters, but that's kind of how that works with a lot of the import companies that make these guitars. There's not as much design. Now, save for maybe somebody like the higher end stuff, when you start to look at Kramer, you start to look at PRS, SE stuff, then they're building to a price still, but the price is higher. So they have a lot more room. But when you're building to a low price, like that Ibanez Geo, for example, or, any of that Harley Benton stuff or any of that stuff, those things are built to a price so much that there's no engineering. It's not like this stuff should go together. When I build a guitar, I'm like, every component in there is there for a reason. And this is why. They're just literally like, okay, I need some pots and I need some pickups and whatever. And there might be some general guidelines, but there's no real design to it. Stack on top of that, cheap pickups, cheap materials, and not good tolerances of wire and good tolerances like a nominal thickness and thickness of insulation and all that kind of stuff. There's a whole bunch of tolerances that you could think about, and I guess we've never really talked about this in a video, but hang on, let me grab this wire right here. So when they make this wire, this is only, what is this stuff? 0.068 thousandths of an inch. Okay. 60. Yeah. So when they make this, the wire needs to stay at this diameter. It can't get wider and thinner and wider and thinner and wider and thinner. The insulation that's on it can't get thicker and thinner and thicker and thinner and thicker and thinner because that's going to change the inductance of the pickup. It's also going to change, the resistance per foot of the wire needs to be consistent for however many miles of wire is on every pickup. Those are the things that matter with cheap materials versus good materials. Same thing with magnets. Magnets need to be gouged properly and evenly across the entire surface. Cheap magnets don't necessarily do that as well. Because all it is just more or less a powder that's mixed up. I mean, if you didn't hit the blender long enough, the magnet's not going to come out right. I know that's a really stupid, overly basic thing to say, but it's kind of true. So if you have low tolerance components, then you're not going to have good stuff. Same thing with the carbon that they use in the pots. Same thing with the capacitors that they use. We've talked many times about tolerance of capacitors. So all of those things can just be all over the place. And that's probably why somebody will get, one Harley Benton. Well, most people think every Harley Benton is the most amazing thing in the world, but some people will get a good cheap guitar and others won't. It won't sound as good because all of those tolerances are kind of all over the place. And when you get a higher quality instrument, there's more sorting of those tolerances and there's more consistency in those tolerances. If you pay, let's say you go on Amazon, you buy a bunch of capacitors in those little variety packs. Those are probably 20% capacitors, 20% tolerance. I go for 5 or 10. So, we're really talking about a big difference. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out, Chris. Have you played the Fender Aerodyne? I have seen one. I almost bought one yesterday and I ended up not buying it, but you've never seen a metal rock guitar player rip on a Telecaster, so you've never seen John 5, huh? He rips Telecasters to shreds. Yeah, I think the quality of instruments is, or the quality of instruments is a huge thing. There's other things too. You know, people can say this cheap guitar is just as good as this guitar. Well, wood selection is a thing. I think getting overly bogged down in the tone wood argument is a stupid thing to do, and it's a dumb place to waste your time. However, there is good quality cuts of wood and bad quality cuts of wood when it comes to consistency of weight and density. That really matters for a consistent instrument. Moisture content of wood really matters. Hardness, somebody mentioned cheap, soft frets. Squire frets are not the same frets that you put in a Fender American Standard. They're harder. The American ones are harder. They will last longer. They will stay polished. They will not corrode as quickly. The hardware is better. We already talked about electronics. So cheap guitars are not as good as more expensive guitars. They simply are not. There are very tangible reasons why this is true. And there are things that are built to a price. We get that. And some of it's a little bit all over the place. Now, if your personal perception of an instrument gives you the value that you want it to give you, if you spend X amount of dollars on a guitar and it's worth it to you and you didn't want to spend any more than that and you're happy with it, then that's totally fine. And if you think that your whatever cheap guitar you have is what you like, then that is excellent, because that's what we want. We want to be happy with the thing that we have, and we want it to inspire us to play. That's number one most important thing. We want it to inspire us to play 100%. Above all else, just don't be fooled or sucked into the argument that this cheap guitar is just as good as this more expensive one, because it simply is not. It cannot be. It cannot be. Otherwise, more expensive guitars, well, cheaper guitars would be more expensive. There would be no cheap guitars if they were just as good as. Simply. End of story. It's just how it is. If a Squire guitar had the same frets that an American guitar had, the Squire guitar would be more expensive. Because the frets cost more. Because binding costs more. Because finish types cost more. Because various hardware cost more. And just because it's possible to do it in a foreign country where you can offset the cost of what something should cost by paying somebody less and have less humane working conditions, that does not mean that the guitar should cost less. It's just kind of the way it is. But if you like them, buy them. I mean, I don't think you should cheap out on your hobby. I think that all these people that are like trying to get the cheapest thing for the cheapest, I don't understand what the point, unless you're just that bargain hunter guy, unless you're like, I'm not a yard sailor. Okay. Like I just like my stuff to work and I want it to be good. So I don't care. And if it means that I have to save up, I'm actually saving up for something right now. Because it's something that I want, it's a specific thing that I want, and it is more money than I can afford at the moment. So therefore I am saving up for said thing because I want that thing. Could I get a cheaper one? Yep. Could I get something and say it's just as good as the other one, or mod it into just as good as the other one? Maybe. But what if I just waited an extra 6 months and got the one I wanted? And then I would be actually serving my hobby and my enjoyment of the hobby correctly, instead of settling for something and being like, oh yeah, I have to talk myself now into blah, 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 blah. I don't do that. My brain just doesn't work like that. Unless you're broke. And then, if you're broke, you buy the best guitar you have and you enjoy it. And then you decide how you want to allocate your resources in your life to support your hobby. And if you're truly in a position that you only can afford whatever, then you will genuinely enjoy your hobby to whatever extent that you can. You will. That's its own conversation. And then you will find a way to mow an extra lawn, to take an extra paper route, or whatever, to get the thing you want. We are human beings, and we will find a way. We will do it. The thing is that the majority of people are not broke. The majority of people, and we could get totally into psychology here again, like we did last week, but they just have this scarcity mindset, and they think that they just can't, blah, 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 can't. Why? And then they're just like, well, then I'm going to settle for whatever. And I just don't do that. If you're broke and you're still playing, that's dedication. No, I think that's normal musicians, wouldn't you say? Just to make a joke and lighten it up. Yeah. Patience is a thing, man. So is a Sweetwater card. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but, sometimes you can have a plan. Stephen piped, you're late to the party. Talking about the Bluetooth thing. If you go back and watch the beginning of it, you'll know what's up. Yeah, no, this is fun stuff. I love talking about it because what I care about is giving somebody a different perspective. I think it's not even about right or wrong, because there is no right or wrong. And we all know our own personal situations, right? But I just think that sometimes you get stuck in a rut of like, well, I'll never be able to, if I ever say I can't afford that, or I will never be able to have, or I will never, Leslie is the first one to be like, why are you even thinking like that? And I'm like, you're right. It's not now. Maybe it's later. Is it something that I'm putting off? Is it something that I don't really want? Is it something that I don't have a real desire for? Or is it something that I'm going to actually sit down, arrange priorities, and decide? Or is it something I'm going to settle for? Never. I never settle. Ever. Never, ever, ever. So just make sure that you're not settling on something that you should be enjoying. Just make sure you don't settle on something you should be enjoying. I saw that the TTG that you helped with had carbon fiber reinforced necks. Yes. Do you know which provider offers this? Neck part only. No, those are made. We made those. Those are made at, where are those made? Maximum Guitars in Denver. Made those necks. Rob, you practice guitar every day at 4. That's super cool, dude. I dig it. What do you think will be the next big manufacturing thing which will make the quality per price better? I think, I don't know directly about that. I think, and again, this is going to be something that all of the tinfoil hat guitar players are going to have to just let go. But I think you're going to have to be more willing to understand that a piece of wood is a piece of wood, or a body is made out of whatever. And that if said guitar company says, we're not going to use alder anymore, or we're not going to use ash, or we're not going to use whatever, don't go tripping over yourselves about friggin' mid-range and blah, 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 resonance and all that crap. Just play the guitar, because I think there's going to be a movement over the next decade, probably 5 years, actually, probably half a decade away from the traditional materials that we use to build guitars. When I say materials, I don't just mean wood. I just mean, alder, ash, mahogany, all the normal ones. We're seeing a lot more poplar, and everybody wants to flip out about poplar, but it's actually very, very good. That's just for cheap guitar. No, it ain't. It's good. If you can make a guitar out of it, and if it is dimensionally stable, if it is easy to machine, if it is the density and the weight are commensurate with the size of the body that you want it to be, the goal weight and the goal density of the material, then you can make a guitar out of it and it will sound good. Because the bottom line is this. Even all you Tonewood freaks who want to talk about ash versus alder and all this crap, what it really comes down to is if you want to, let's say you want to believe you're 100% Tonewood believer. What you're really saying is that the guitar is X amount of size. Telecaster. We'll just use a Telecaster. X amount of size. So it's, inch and 5/8 thick or whatever it is. Anyway, 2 inches, whatever it is thick. So it's this thick. The Telecaster is this size. And the goal weight for the guitar is 6.5 pounds. And the overall density of the material that I want it to be out of is X amount of, the mass of the thing should be this. That's really what you're saying. Because even if you believe all that crap, when you change materials from ash to alder, you're not really. Those are the only variables that you can change. It's not some kind of voodoo or magic. When you change the material of a body of a guitar, it just goes from this mass and density to this mass and density. And it may be a little different, which within species, it's even more variable than that. So that's why the whole thing's a joke anyways. So what I'm saying is, if you believe in Tonewood, then you're going to have to accept the fact that you can take any other material that has similar size, density, weight, dimensional stability, and machinability, and make a guitar and it'll be fine. If you believe in Tonewood, you have to accept that because that's what you are saying. So there you go. Just flip that crap on its head. That's why it doesn't matter. That's why, because dimensions, and I'm not saying you can't sit down and be like, well, this guitar sounds different than this guitar. Okay, fine. Well, this one's alder and this one's ash and these ones sound different. Okay, fine. That's cool. Why? Tell me why. And you could launch into a particular, however you want to believe about density of materials and weight of materials and blah, 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 grain structure, whatever, cellular. You could go off on all whatever tangent you want. However, a synthetic material can accomplish exactly the same thing. A different species of wood can accomplish exactly the same thing. You just have to find the right material or the right species of wood to do exactly the same thing. It can be done. It's 2023. Science is a thing. It's kind of fun. And everybody wants to talk about strip and screw holes on poplar and basswood. Let me ask you a question. How many times do you take your pick guard off? Guess what? If you use a hyper switch, you only got to do it once. Oh, wait. Now you're going to get ball cancer. You guys, this has been super fun. I really, really like this a lot. My concern is the softness of wood and how it holds a finish. See, let's get down to the nitty gritty. We all care about how our guitar looks. I do. I 100% agree. Wood matters mostly for how much the guitar costs. That's not actually true. It is a factor, but it's not as much as you would think. It depends. Honestly, the finishing and we'll call it post-production is probably the number one most thing. Yeah. Will Texas Toast let you bring your own wood? I believe they will, yeah. Yep. All right, y'all. This has been super, super fun. I wish bamboo was used more. I actually used it for a fretboard one time. It was awesome. Super hard, though. Hard to machine. So you got to remember machining time. You got to remember machining time and tool, how long tools last. So that's another thing. You can't go so hard that it becomes hard to do. Otherwise, then you're slowing machine speeds down. Then you're worried about cycle times being longer. Then the guitar has to be more expensive. Because when cycle times go up, so does the cost of guitars. So, you guys, this has been great. Thanks for hanging out. We will see you probably tomorrow in another video, or Thursday. I don't know. I've got like tons of P90s to make. If you've been ordering stuff, it is coming. We are slamming through stuff. We've been ordering like lots of stuff. So thanks for hanging out, and we will see you in the next video.